The whispers of a life unlived are the most haunting sound a man can endure. They are the ghosts of potential, the specters of might-have-beens, a silent chorus that follows you into the lonely hours of the night, asking the one question you dare not answer. Is this all you are? For one man, a man whose name the sands had all but forgotten, that whisper had become a deafening roar. He was a creature of compromise, a connoisseur of comfort, his will as soft and yielding as the pillows upon which he dreamt of a life he was too afraid to claim. The world saw him as a shadow, and in the quiet honesty of his own heart he knew they were right. He was an echo of other men's ambitions, a vessel for other men's beliefs, a ghost at the feast of his own existence. But in the crucible of absolute desolation, a new sound was about to be forged, the sound of silent, unyielding resolve. His story did not begin with a choice, but with a cataclysm. A storm, born of the desert's fury, descended upon his world, a maelstrom of sand and wind that did not just reshape the dunes, but erased the very lines of his life. For days, he was entombed in the suffocating darkness beneath the ruins of his former self, the world above a symphony of destruction. When he finally clawed his way back to the light, he was met with a silence that was more profound than any sound. Everything he had known, everyone he had loved was gone, swallowed by the indifferent sands. In that moment, standing on the precipice of nothingness, the man who was once a whisper made a vow that was a roar. He would not be scattered by the wind. He would not be buried by the sand. He would become the rock against which the storms of the world would break. This was the birth of the Iron Monk. His journey was not one of seeking, but of becoming. He walked into the heart of the desert, the very agent of his own destruction, and he did not see an enemy. He saw a forge. The blistering sun was the fire, the merciless wind was the hammer, and his own soft, yielding will was the ore. He walked until the man he was had been burned away, until all that was left was the raw, unrefined metal of his own being. And then he saw it, a dark scar on the horizon, a temple carved from the heart of a black mountain, a place spoken of only in legends, the temple of silent resolve. The entrance was not guarded by sentinels, but by a single stark inscription. The price of entry is your former self. He did not hesitate. He had already paid that price in the heart of the storm. He stepped into a courtyard of black sand, the silence within its walls a living thing. There a lone figure stood, his back to the world, a man who seemed to be a part of the mountain itself. This was the abbot, the keeper of the temple's secrets. Without turning, the abbot's voice echoed not in the air, but in Kaelin's mind. The desert has a way of breaking things. What brings you to this place of silent mending? Kaelin's voice, when he found it, was not his own. It was a new voice, forged in the crucible of his journey. I did not come here to be mended, he said, the words as solid as the rock beneath his feet. I came here to be forged. The abbot turned, and his eyes were not the eyes of a man who had found peace, but of a man who had become it. The forge is a place of fire and pressure, he said, a flicker of ancient wisdom in his gaze. It will melt away every lie you have ever told yourself, every weakness you have ever clung to. It will leave you with nothing but the unadorned truth of your own power. Are you prepared to be reduced to nothing, so that you may be remade into everything? I am already nothing, Kaelin replied, the words a quiet declaration of his own rebirth. Now I am ready to become. And so began a training that was not of the body but of the soul. The first lesson was silence. For 40 days and 40 nights Kaelin was forbidden to speak. He was to sit in the courtyard of black sand and simply exist. In the beginning his mind was a tempest, a raging storm of fear, regret, and 1,000 anxieties. The silence was a mirror, and it showed him a monster of his own creation. He wanted to scream, to run, to escape the deafening roar of his own inner chaos. But he did not. He sat, he breathed, he endured. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the storm began to calm. The raging seas of his thoughts began to still. The monster in the mirror began to fade. In the vast, empty space that was left, he heard something new, something he had never heard before, the quiet, steady rhythm of his own being. He was not the storm. He was the sky that held the storm. He was the silent witness to the chaos, the unwavering presence that was untouched by the turmoil. He had learned the first principle of the Iron Monk. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. On the 41st day, the abbot approached. You have silenced the noise, he said, his voice a gentle current in the still waters of Kaelin's mind. Now you will learn to command the river. The next lesson was focus. Kaelin was given a single, smooth river stone and told to balance it on a slender bamboo shoot. He was to hold it there with nothing but the power of his concentration from sunrise to sunset. For weeks, the stone was his tormentor. The slightest breeze, the faintest tremor of his hand, the most fleeting of thoughts, would send it tumbling to the ground. Frustration, an old and familiar enemy, began to lay siege to the fortress of his newfound calm. He felt the old weakness creeping back, the familiar whisper that told him he was not enough, that he would always be sand. But the memory of the storm, the memory of his vow, was stronger. He would not yield. He took a breath, not just of air, but of pure, unadulterated intention. He looked at the stone, and he did not just see a rock. He saw a focal point for his entire being. His mind, his body, and his will became one, a single, unwavering beam of energy directed at that single point in space. The stone did not just balance, it became an extension of him. The wind could blow, the earth could tremble, but the stone would not fall. He had learned the second principle of the Iron Monk. Your focus is your power. Where you direct it, you shape your world. The abbot, who had been watching from the shadows, emerged as the moon replaced the sun in the sky. You have learned to direct your will, he said, his voice imbued with a quiet respect. But a will without wisdom is a river without banks, a force of destruction. Now you will learn to see. The third lesson was perception. Kaelin was led to a cave deep within the mountain, a place of absolute darkness. He was given a single, unlit lantern. You will remain here, the abbot instructed, his voice echoing in the cavern, until you can light this lantern without a flame. For what seemed like an eternity, Kaelin was adrift in a sea of blackness. The silence, once a comfort, was now a canvas for his deepest fears. The darkness was not empty, it was filled with the phantoms of his own mind. He felt his resolve beginning to crack, his carefully constructed peace threatening to shatter. He was a child again, lost and afraid. He fumbled for the lantern, his hands shaking, his soul crying out for the solace of light. But he stopped. The abbot's words were not a riddle, they were a key. He was not meant to create a flame, he was meant to become one. He sat and he breathed and he turned his focus inward. He let go of the world of sight and sound and entered the world of pure energy. He delved deep into the core of his being, past the layers of fear and doubt to the furnace of his own spirit. There he found it, a spark, a tiny, flickering ember of the universal fire that animates all things. He nurtured it with his breath, he fueled it with his will, he fanned it with his intention. The ember grew into a flame, the flame into a roaring fire, a sun of pure energy that radiated from the center of his being. The darkness in the cave did not recede, it was consumed. The unlit lantern in his hands began to glow, not with the light of a flame, but with the light of his own illumined consciousness. When the abbot returned, he found Kaelin sitting in a pool of soft, ethereal light, the source of which was the man himself. You have learned to see, the abbot said, his voice filled with a profound sense of completion. You have learned that the world is not a fixed reality, but a reflection of your own inner state. You have learned that you are not a victim of the world, you are its creator. This is the third and most powerful principle of the Iron Monk. You do not experience the world as it is. You experience the world as you are. Kalen's transformation was not a process of addition, but of subtraction. With each lesson, another layer of his false self was stripped away, revealing the core of pure, unadulterated power that had been there all along. He was no longer a man who was subject to the world. He was a man who was the world. The universe was not something that happened to him. It was something that happened through him. He learned to master his body, not as a separate entity, but as a vessel for his will. He learned to see his emotions not as masters to be obeyed, but as messengers to be understood. He learned to view his thoughts not as absolute truths, but as clouds passing through the infinite sky of his awareness. He was becoming a living embodiment of silent resolve, a man whose inner peace was so profound that it could calm the storms of the world around him. One day the abbot led him to a hidden chamber within the temple, a room filled with ancient scrolls and texts. In the center of the room, on a simple wooden stand, was a single, flawlessly crafted mirror. "Look," the abbot said, his voice a quiet command. Kalen looked into the mirror, but he did not see his own reflection. He saw the world. He saw the bustling cities, the raging oceans, the silent forests. He saw the joy and the sorrow, the love and the hate, the beauty and the ugliness. He saw the endless, chaotic dance of life in all its magnificent, terrible glory. "The world is a storm," the abbot said, his voice a gentle breeze. "It is a place of constant change, of endless conflict, of unceasing noise. Most people are lost in this storm. They are like leaves in the wind, tossed about by forces they cannot control or understand. They are living lives of quiet desperation, slaves to their own fears and desires." He placed a hand on Kalen's shoulder. "You are no longer a leaf. You are the mountain. You are the calm, unshakable center around which the storm rages. Your purpose is not to escape the storm. It is not to conquer the storm. It is to be the peace within the storm. It is to walk into the world and by the sheer force of your own inner stillness, to remind others of the peace that lies within them. You will not be a preacher of words, but a testament of being. Your life will be your message. Your presence will be your sermon. This is the way of the Iron Monk." Kalen left the temple not as the man who had entered it, but as a force of nature. He walked back into the world he had once fled, but he did not see it with the same eyes. He did not see a world of chaos and confusion, but a world of infinite possibility. He did not see a world of strangers, but a world of fellow travelers, each one fighting their own inner battle, each one seeking their own inner peace. He did not build a monastery or gather a following. He simply found a place in the heart of a great city, a place where the storm of human ambition and despair raged at its fiercest, and he sat. He became a silent, unmoving point of stillness in a world of frantic motion. At first, he was invisible, a ghost in the machine of the city. But slowly, people began to notice. They were drawn to him, not by anything he said or did, but by the palpable aura of peace that surrounded him. They would come and sit with him, the broken and the lost, the powerful and the proud, and in the silence of his presence, they would find a moment of respite from the storms of their own lives. They would touch the edge of the peace that he embodied, and in doing so, they would remember the peace that was their own birthright. A young woman, her spirit crushed by the weight of a failed dream, sat with him for a day. She came with a heart full of bitterness and a mind full of recriminations. She sat in the storm of her own making, and in the mirror of his stillness, she saw not her failure but her strength. She saw not her brokenness but her resilience. She left not with answers but with a newfound sense of her own power to create them. A powerful executive, a man who had conquered the world but had lost his own soul, found himself drawn to the quiet corner where the Iron Monk sat. He came with a mind that was a whirlwind of anxieties, a constant calculation of profits and losses. He sat with the Iron Monk, and for the first time in years the whirlwind stilled. The calculation ceased. In the vast, open space of the silence, he heard the faint, almost forgotten whisper of his own heart. He left not with a new business strategy, but with a new reason to live. This is the power of silent resolve. It is not the power to change the world, but the power to change your relationship with the world. It is the power to find your center in the midst of chaos, to be the eye of the storm, to be the rock that is not moved by the crashing waves. This story is not just a story, it is a mirror. It is a reflection of the journey that you are on, whether you know it or not. You are Kaelin. You are the one who is standing on the precipice of a new life, a life of power, of purpose, of unshakable inner peace. The storm that destroyed his world is the storm that is raging within you, the storm of your own self-doubt, your own fears, your own limiting beliefs. The temple of silent resolve is not a place you can find on a map. It is a place you must build within yourself. The principles of the Iron Monk are not ancient secrets. They are timeless truths. They are the keys to unlocking the power that is already within you. You have the power to silence the noise of your own mind, to become the master of your own inner world. You have the power to focus your will, to direct your energy with laser-like precision, to become the conscious creator of your own reality. You have the power to change your perception, to see the world not as a source of suffering, but as a grand adventure, a training ground for your own evolution. The question is not whether you can do this. The question is whether you will. Will you continue to be a leaf in the wind, or will you choose to become the mountain? Will you continue to be a slave to the storms of your own life, or will you choose to become the peace within the storm? This is your call to action. This is your invitation to begin the journey of the Iron Monk. It begins with a single step. It begins with the decision to turn inward, to face the storms of your own mind, to claim the power that is your birthright. Embrace the silence. Find a few moments each day to turn off the noise of the world and to simply be. Listen to the quiet wisdom of your own heart. It is there, waiting to be heard. Sharpen your focus. Choose one thing that is important to you and give it your undivided attention. Train your mind to be a servant of your will, not its master. Challenge your perception. When you are faced with a difficulty, do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" See every challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger, to become more of who you truly are. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It is a path for the warrior. It is a path for the one who is no longer content to live a life of quiet desperation, who is ready to claim a life of loud, unapologetic power. If this message resonates with you, if you feel the stirring of the warrior within, then join us. This is not just a channel, it is a community. It is a gathering of modern-day monks, of men and women who are committed to the path of self-mastery. Subscribe and become a part of this movement. In the comments below, declare your intention. Write, "I am the mountain." Let it be a vow, a commitment to yourself and to the world that you will no longer be moved by the storms of life, that you will be a source of strength, of peace, of silent resolve in a world that desperately needs it. Our next journey together will take us deeper into the art of perception, into the alchemical process of transforming the lead of your suffering into the gold of your wisdom. It is a journey you will not want to miss. But for now, let the story of the Iron Monk be your guide. Let it be the fire that lights your way. Let it be the hammer that forges your will. The storm is here, the forge is hot, the time is now. Become the Iron Monk.